Welcome back, YouTubers, to another video with us, the British Fist.
Coaching!
I am Mr. Parkin, and this guy sitting next to me is the one and only NJ.
What's up?
And today we're going to be doing a video response to Off the Rope Show, in particular the Schleg Daddy, who asked in his video that he did on Wednesday, is Daniel Bryan ready to be in the main event? But before we go into this, make sure you guys subscribe up above, like this video, and get any thoughts you have on Daniel Bryan being a possible main eventer in that comment section below.
Make sure you contact us in the links in the description box below.
So, the age-old question of what we've been getting last week. So, with Daniel Bryan now having Money in the Bank and him having a title shot on next week's Smackdown, do we feel he's ready to lift that strap up and be a believable champion?
Well, I think the best place to start is when he first joined the WWE and how the WWE have booked him since then. When he first came, I guess, unless you watched the show, unless you watched ROH before
NXT.
and all that, you wouldn't really know who he is. But bringing him into the WWE with Nexus, I think that was a big move for him and definitely gave him a temporary name before he left.
And then he broke off from the Nexus, getting fired. I think bringing him in with the Nexus was a good thing, and I think breaking him off on his own was also a good thing. He had that feud with Miz, which really got his name out there. The problem is, you give him Money in the Bank like 2 years later, or a year and a half or so later, and he's not really well known. Do you know what I mean? I mean, he's not really, to the mainstream fans, he's not a big name yet, and I think this is where, because Schleg Daddy mentioned it in his review how people should be built, and I am a firm believer of that kind of thing. And you've got to build this guy's name and character so that you can believably, he can believably be a champion, and you can actually believe it rather than just want it and get yourself in another Jack Swagger situation.
Well, the way I look at it, he had that, as you said, that feud with Miz, and I thought that was going to be a stepping stone because Miz was a good character.
Yeah.
And I think from the moment they finished that, he really didn't continue to make a name for himself.
No.
So he kind of became an afterthought, and then it's only been recently that he's actually become more involved.
I mean, you look at the history. You've got him coming in Nexus, having that feud with Miz, getting the US Championship. He was booked on pay-per-views, as far as we know. He won good matches. He was going up against guys like Miz, and they seem to have that period where they gave him the US Championship. He was being booked quite well, and then all of a sudden they dropped the championship, and then he's dark matching. WrestleMania, and then he's not featured on a pay-per-view until Money in the Bank, and it's like, well, the slow build and logical build there just isn't there.
No, but as a US champion, he did have good matches. Like Dolph Ziggler was a good feud when they had that battle against each other on the pay-per-view, and then he went on being a good US champion. He held it for quite a while, and I really liked that of him. But to be honest, his career, as we've said, has slowly gone downhill afterwards. That it was just disappointing.
I mean, one of the key issues here is, yes, we know this guy's a great wrestler. He'll be able to put on very good matches, but what about the Daniel Bryan character? We saw what happened with him when he got associated with Divas, and that really was a real down point in his character, in my opinion. They tried to give him personality, and really he was the kind of guy, like Schleg Daddy said in his video, who can provide contrast like a kind of guy that Bret Hart did as being a pure wrestler rather than just an aggressive fighter. Do you see what I mean here? The development of his character has kind of hit a real flaw there, and especially lately as well.
I do look at him and think, because to be honest, I'm not a huge Daniel Bryan fan, I'm going to say that now. His theme music doesn't really go with his character, I don't think. So at the minute, I think he's still trying to search for the right character for his thing. If they already think of putting him in the title picture, I think it's going to be damaging because he's got a weird method character, and he's in the title picture, so it's going to go downhill if he does come champ. Like
Schleg Daddy did, I'll use an example, Jack Swagger. He got he didn't have a logical build towards winning Money in the Bank and then being the champion. And now look where he is now, a year and a half or so later. He's essentially a glorified jobber. And to be honest with you, as much as I do like Daniel Bryan, and I would like to see him as champion, I don't want to see WWE ruin him I don't want to see WWE do something for him this early and kind of ruin his character before it has a chance to develop. And then he becomes another Jack Swagger. And I don't want to see that. It's about wanting what's best for the wrestler. You know what I mean? And even though a lot of people out there are Daniel Bryan fans, they might kid themselves slightly because, they'll see him win the title. But then afterwards, if he loses it after a month, which you probably would do with WWE's booking, he'll become another Jack Swagger, and that's just how it works.
It's just at the minute they are trying to give him more involvement, like put him against Mark Henry, having him involved with the Big Show, having him cashing in here and there. Yeah. So going back to when he came Money in the Bank,
it was a surprise.
It was a surprise. We all had Wade Barrett was going to win. So give it to Bryan. Yes, we expected a face to go into the main event.
Yes, we did.
But to be honest, Since he's got it, he's been on a losing streak, and he's only trying to become a winner again. And it's just, I think, maybe too late for him. Maybe.
I think the problem was, I mean, the main problem is the way he's been built to that pay-per-view, and all of a sudden, WWE go for the surprise factor, which isn't always the smartest thing to do. I mean, you had other guys in there that were probably more built than Daniel Bryan. I mean, some people argue Wade Barrett, but I don't think even he was built up enough ready to win that Money in the Bank yet. But I mean, Daniel Bryan was an example of a guy who, wasn't really featured on pay-per-views, like Show Daddy said in his video, and he wins the Money in the Bank, and we're kind of like, oh, and it kind of seemed to me like the WWE just thought, right, let's put it out there as a surprise. And then we don't really know what we're going to do with him, because it's really shown in the fact that he's been jobbing a lot, losing. I mean, the first day he was on SummerSlam and he did a job to Wade Barrett, and that really didn't do too much for Wade Barrett until now.
I look at it and thinking that they are trying to put him against the right wrestlers to give him a push. I do think they are trying to, but to be honest, Daniel Bryan can put on great matches, but it's just the way that we see him and the way he's been booked that's really making it hard for us to believe that he's going to become a real good champion.
Well, did he have any meaningful feuds after Money in the Bank? I just don't really think he did ever have any meaningful feuds. I mean, they started off fine. They gave him an interview segment with his Money in the Bank segment. They made him beat Heath Slater in a match, essentially being a jobber. But since then, he hasn't really been in a rivalry. He's just been floating around. And have you noticed he's never been on the Raw Super Show? He's only ever on SmackDown where they can pump in the canned crowd.
Yeah, they had him against Sin Cara, but that still didn't give him a push.
He was filler.
Yeah, and to be honest, I don't think even though he is in the title area now, I don't think they've still got any idea what they're going to do with him.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, he was essentially filler for bringing other feuds along, and that is not how you treat a Money in the Bank winner. I mean, even Del Rio has been used as filler on occasions, but Daniel Bryan has been used extensively as filler. And when you have a Money in the Bank winner, especially with a guy like Daniel Bryan, who you need to push into that main event very strongly, might I add, because of the booking he's had. People were saying that he can get built at WrestleMania, but now look at it, we're a couple of weeks away from TLC. Maybe 4 months away from 4 or 5 months away from WrestleMania, and it's just like, can you really do it in that amount of time? And it doesn't even look like he's going to cash it in at WrestleMania anymore.
No, again, it was a big thing for him to announce that he was going to do it at WrestleMania, but the amount of months there are between now and then, to be honest, anything could happen, and they're already teasing him cashing it in, so maybe they should just cash it in and get moving on from there.
Yeah, so it's really essentially, Daniel Bryan as a wrestler is ready for the main event, in my opinion. As a wrestler, as a guy who can put on matches. As a character, no. His character really hasn't settled yet in regards with the mainstream audience. Of course, people in the YWC are massive fans of Daniel Bryan, and we're not going to forgive you that. We're not going to portray you that, because you can be fans of whoever you like. But it comes to a point where you have to look out for what's best for the guy who you're fans of. It'll be, if Daniel Bryan becomes world champion, great. Daniel Bryan fans will be chanting in the street, Daniel Bryan, yeah. But what happens a month later when he loses that title and he's in mid-card hell? Then what happens?
The way I see it, it's going to be not a shock, because we're all expecting him to cash in the briefcase and win, like most other Money in the Bank briefcase winners have gone on and done. Yeah. So we are expecting Daniel Bryan to become the World Heavyweight Champion, but to actually hold on to it and actually put meaning to his reign as the champ, I just don't think he's got it. Maybe he'll put on a great match when he cashes it in, but I don't think it'll be much better than that.
No, I still think it should have been another sort of maybe 2 years until he can really make a believer out of the fans. Give him that opportunity when he's actually over. I don't really think, in my opinion, that he was over. Maybe when he was booked right, but not now. I mean, why would you give your Money in the Bank to a guy who hadn't been booked on any pay-per-views since Royal Rumble? I didn't get it. I didn't mind it at the time, because I thought to myself, well, if they book him correctly, it could work. But it really hasn't. He hasn't been booked correctly. And if you just seeing him with that World Heavyweight Championship on SmackDown, because he did cash it in and then it got down, it just didn't feel right. Really didn't, to me personally.
I don't think it feels right. Again, I could just only hope for the best for him, but to be honest, I can't see a lot of good things coming his way. As much as I want to, because obviously he was a surprise winning the Money in the Bank, but I just don't really see a lot of good coming from this.
It's a very prime example of WWE really trying to rush their pushes. Let's face it, in the last 5 or so years, they've lost a lot of stars, and they've needed to build stars up quite fast. We've seen guys like Sheamus, built way too fast for his WWE title run, and then it's taken WWE 2 years to really open their eyes up and really develop that Sheamus character to a point where he's over and he can believably win the championship. With Daniel Bryan, that really, they tried to rush him with Money in the Bank, and they've not featured him correctly. It's just not It's just not worked out for Daniel Bryan. It's not Daniel Bryan's fault. It's WWE's fault for not booking the guy correctly. You know, you can put the argument across for, is he been booked correctly? Does he deserve it? Yes, of course he deserves it. You know, he's a great wrestler, but he's just the WWE haven't given us as fans a reason to believe that he should be champion, and that is the problem. It is WWE's doing, unfortunately.
No, again, SmackDown are trying to make Daniel Bryan now it's a bit too late, but they're trying to make him look like a decent competitor, a decent person to become the World Heavyweight Champion. But like I said earlier in the video, I think it's just a bit late for it to become real and make many fans believe it.
Do you not feel they could build him up? Let's say he doesn't cash it in at let's say he doesn't cash it in until WrestleMania. Do you really think WWE could build this guy in 4 or 5 months? I personally think it's possible. It's just that they haven't been consistent enough with him to really make me a believer.
The way I believe it is that, to be honest, they had the idea of Daniel Bryan winning it, yeah, but to be honest, it's got a few months till WrestleMania, and to be honest, I don't think he's going to make it that far. I'd be surprised if he does, but
same here.
I think they're just going to rush it now.
I don't think it helps with the fact that I think their main event scene on SmackDown's really improved, and I think at the time he won Money in the Bank, he really was something that the main event scene needed. But now he's kind of a second thought because they've got so many guys developing into that main event scene now that he's kind of almost sort of getting in the way of it a little bit. It'd almost be better if he didn't win Money in the Bank, sort of.
Very true.
A guy like Sheamus won it, who's now kind of building to that main event.
Well, the backhand to that would be that we're going to have now, he could lose his normal contendership and lose when he cashes it in.
Yeah.
That's the one way out of this, but to be honest, that'd be horrible for Daniel Bryan for holding that briefcase for as long as he did.
Yeah.
But to be honest, there's a small chance that he deserves it.
Yeah, and it just wouldn't do the guy justice either. You know, it really... The way they featured Daniel Bryan on SmackDown was just so lackluster. I mean, like I said, he had 1 or 2 good segments, and lately he's been doing all right, but he just hasn't been involved in feuds. He hasn't had his own TV time with that Money in the Bank kind of thing. And he's been doing jobs to Sin Cara, you know, Cody Rhodes, guys like that, you know, some guys below him like that. And he's been on this mad losing streak. And how are we supposed to believe this guy can be a World Heavyweight Champion when he's on a massive losing streak? When really, if you want a guy to really be built up to that far, you need to book him on big pay-per-views and make him win matches. Like an example is Mark Henry. You know, I mean, no one believed he could be the World Heavyweight Champion, but look how he's been booked. He's been booked as a dominant heel who's won at big pay-per-views. And look at me now. I'm a firm believer of the Mark Henry World Heavyweight Championship run.
The only difference is that Mark Henry was built correctly. Daniel Bryan is probably too late now. And to be honest, all I can say is only time can tell what's going to be Daniel Bryan. Yeah. But we're just sharing our thoughts at the minute.
Like I said, I don't want it. I like Daniel Bryan. I don't want him to be another Jack Swagger. Another guy who will have the title once. It'll be so unbelievable. He'll be booked like shit by the WWE because you know what they're like with their champions. They're very, very rating. They like to keep their ratings up, which is one of the reasons why Del Rio lost the championship, in my opinion, to CM Punk. It's about how much confidence WWE have in Daniel Bryan. If they have a lot of confidence in a guy, they'll go all the way. And I just don't feel WWE have that confidence in Daniel Bryan, and that is why I feel that Daniel Bryan is ready to be a main eventer, but not the character Daniel Bryan. As a wrestler, he is ready for that main event. He can work great matches. He's probably the best wrestler in the company. But the way WWE have got behind him and showcased him to the fans makes me believe that he's not ready for the main event scene yet.
No, and I'm just going to repeat this again because obviously when you look at it now, he said about WrestleMania, he's having teased it now, but only time can tell what's going to happen with Daniel Bryan. Maybe his career can be gradually fixed before WrestleMania, or maybe they're just going to blow it and get it done between now and WrestleMania.
So the final answer to the Schleg Daddy's question is Daniel Bryan ready for the main event yet is no.
No.
They could have really done it a lot better, and if they did it that much better, I could have been a believer, but I'm still a firm believer of building up a guy slowly, using tag teams, US titles, and they did start doing that, but then in the last year or so, it's just really, really gone down the chart, and that is the reason why, you know, we're in this situation now. We're really doubting whether Daniel Bryan can be a main eventer or not. Just saying. Any last thoughts before we close this video?
No, that's it.
All right, well, guys, first of all, the first thing I want to say is we did this all uncut. We've got no notes or anything, so we've just done this all the top of our head. It still lasted 15 minutes, though, so we've done pretty well. If you guys have any thoughts on this, get them in the comment section below, and we'll post this as a video response to the Schleg Daddy Off the Rope show. Make sure you accept, brother.
And that has been it from the British Fist, sharing our thoughts on Daniel Bryan and wishing him luck that hopefully he can fix his career and go somewhere. And that has been it from Mr. Parkin and NJ. Goodbye.